describing language and language skills. Now, in the grammar, what you will be tested, it is 3 areas you will be tested in the grammar. And those areas I'm going to get into detail. And other than that, like the first page which is there, it's just an explanation to make you understand what grammar means and how important it is. So there are 2 point of view which I will be talking. One is examination point of view, and other is your own knowledge as a teacher. Okay, so if we see the grammar, what they say from here, what is grammar? Grammar refers to how we combine, organize, and change parts of words and group of words to make meaning. What are we doing? We are making meaning through grammar. How? Grammar we use in different ways, and we recognize in that how to combine or organize words or parts of it. Okay, and ultimate, what for we are doing it? We are conveying the message, the meaning to others. So grammar is one way which is describing our language, like we are talking in which sense, what grammatical aspect we are using there. Is it I'm talking to you in present time or past time, or I'm talking about the future time? Okay, so I'm using adverbs or adjectives, emphasizing on something, prepositions I'm using for different other things. So likewise, in these various things which we use in the grammar, and we use that in the language, what happens with that? We try to communicate and trying to make others understand what we are saying. It's just a general thing which you need to keep in mind. Examination point of view, they don't ask question about these things. When it comes, I'll let you know about it. That's on the next page. We use grammar unconsciously when we speak, listen, read, or write. We also use it particularly as teachers to describe language. We do this by referring to its forms and its uses. Grammar includes a large number of forms and uses. Right. Now, some people think that grammar is not necessarily when we are speaking. That's not true. As you see here, they say we use grammar unconsciously when we speak. The first thing, listen, read, or write. Now, some people say we don't need grammar when we speak. We do need grammar. If it is one word we say, even that is in the grammar. If I ask you, what are you doing there? And you say reading. So you said one word, but that one word is a verb. Verb is part of speech, which is an aspect in the grammar. You know, so even you said one word, it does not mean that it is not grammar or it's out of the grammar. So when we speak a word, a phrase, a sentence, all that is part of the grammar. So we use all these in the listening, reading, writing, and speaking unconsciously. Unconsciously how? Now, for example, second language we definitely using consciously. But if your mother language is Sinhala, so without learning the grammar, unconsciously you are using grammar and you don't know even, and you have not learned it as babies when they learn their first language. And they are just 2 years old. And the babies, when they reach to 3 years, 2.5 and 3 years, almost they speak quite good language of their mother language, whatever it is. It's Tamil or Sinhala or whatever. So they have not learned the grammar, but grammatically they are speaking. Unconsciously, they are using grammar perfectly and speaking. We start learning grammar about our own language even when we get into the school. And that also when reached to the 7, 8 years old, then we start the grammar and learning these things. Before that, unconsciously, without learning proper grammar and language rules, we can speak our mother language. That's how we learn it. That thing also we will discuss when we learn the language in that way. I think still we have not discussed it. That is in the function. Unit number 4, we will talk about it. So the bottom line here is grammar is necessary. Whatever way we are using the language, if it's in the spoken way, we are listening to it, we are reading it or writing it. Always we use grammar, right? So as a teacher, they say, particularly as teacher, we need to know about the grammar, because when we are teaching language, we need to have the knowledge of it, what it is. Otherwise, we cannot teach. Although a lot of people are teaching language without learning it appropriately, and then they try to teach that. It's you need to do some kind of courses, something, in order to understand how to teach language, like the TKT course. So if you don't have any other certification or training session in teaching language, but when you do this course, you will learn a lot of things about how to teach language. So as a teacher, we need to have some qualification in teaching that particular part, like it's English language or whatever teaching you are doing. You need to have some qualification in it. Then you will be able to, and for that qualification, you need to have the knowledge about the topic which you are teaching. Then you will be able to teach properly. That's what they say. Particularly, it's needed for the teachers to know. We do this by referring to forms, and we refer to forms. What is form? On the 3rd page of this grammar topic, we will discuss about forms. Forms and its uses. Grammar includes a large number of forms and uses. Okay, so what's grammar inside? It's forms and uses. Different way, different aspect, we will talk about it. Now the next thing comes, key concepts. What are grammatical forms? These refers to how words are made up and presented in speech or writing. Forms, how words are made up and presented in speech and writing. What we say, what we write, different things we write in different ways, all these are forms. And we use those forms to convey the meaning, convey the message, either in writing or in speaking. For example, the form of plural of regular noun in English is base word or words. The form of gerund is infinitive. Now, I'm not going to talk about gerund's explanation now, because on the next page we are discussing it again. We can identify grammatical forms in parts of speech. Now, this is the area where you will be tested. Parts of speech. How you will be tested, that we are going to talk about. First of all of you or some of you may know it, parts of speech, and you might have taught it. Parts of speech, grammatical structures and words that contain prefixes. Prefixes, you know, usually we do these prefixes, suffixes with the children in the school. A group of letters added at the beginning of a base word. And suffixes, what's that? A group of letters added at the end of a base word. There are 9 parts of speech in English. How many? 9. Nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, determiners, prepositions, pronouns, conjunctions, and exclamations. A part of speech or a word class describes how words behave in sentences. Now you can highlight this. Parts of speech tells you how words behave in sentences. Like we humans, we have our behavior, and different people, they behave in different ways. Some are rude, some are friendly, some are suspicious, some are curious. These are different ways of behavior comes up, the way we are. Likewise, words, they also have different behaviors. In a sentence, different words behave in different ways, and it gives us different kind of meanings. So you can highlight that a part of speech or a word class describe how words behave in sentence. For example, how they operate and combine grammatically with other words. For example, in English, a noun can act as a subject of a verb, but an adjective by itself cannot. Now, these are they just giving you some example that noun can act as a subject, but an adjective cannot. Like you see, the tall girl ran very fast. But we can't say tall ran very fast. These are the way which tells us how the word behave in sentence. We are ordering them according to their positions in the sentence. Likewise, second one, third one, also they just give you an example of it, that how it works. Down you see the form of some of the parts of speech varies according to the function the parts of speech have in a sentence. Now, the form of the parts of speech, it varies according to the function, mean the way we use it. You know, as one word, it might have a different meaning, like which we discuss a little bit in the lectures also. It depends on the context it is used. So that is how the forms, they are different ways used in different sentences, depends on the context it is used. So, for example, these two sentences show different forms of the adjective. Now you see adjective old. The boy thought he would never grow old. Now here, the old is used one way, but in the next sentence, he is older than most of his friends. Old has two different ways used in this. That's what they are talking to you. It depends on the function, for which function it is used there. Right, so we will go to the next page. And here you see the table below shows the function of different parts of speech. It also shows how most of parts of speech can be broken down into subcategories. Now, this is where you will be tested. Okay, I told you 3 ways they will be testing you in the grammar. This is one of the area where you will be tested. How they will test you? They will test you like these all are, if you see, 9 parts of speech are there in this table. They are going to test you in the subcategories of it. All right. Function also they will test you. All right. Example, definitely you need to know about it. Like nouns, you take nouns, so there is countable noun, uncountable noun, proper, common, abstract, collective. Now you need to know what is a countable noun, how it is used in a sentence, how we recognize that. You need to know what's uncountable noun, proper noun and common noun, abstract noun, and how to recognize an abstract noun in a sentence, and collective nouns. So the next one is verbs. If you see transitive, intransitive verbs, what are they? Regular, irregular, participle, gerunds, infinitive, modals, multiple verbs, phrasal verbs, tenses, active voice, passive voice, imperative. All these are the types of verbs. You call it subcategories of the verbs. Now, last week, which the exam, I mean, for 14th of August, we conducted exam, and the paper, they had taken the test out of these subcategories of the verbs. So they had given the question. They will give you a paragraph. In the paragraph, they will use these different form of the verbs they had used. Okay, so it's almost 6 to 7 are there, and then they underline that. And the next side, they give in a box, they will give you options. So you have to recognize the underlined verb or part of speech is belong to what category. Is it a subcategory or is it a main category? That's how they will test you. So for that, what you have to do, you can easily download these subcategories of nouns, verbs, adjective, and you make your notes, or when you download, explanation is there with the example. So you need to recognize that in context. In a paragraph, they will underline, there might be a noun. So they have to see whether it is further, like in the option, they have given you the subcategory of it. So you have to see whether it's a noun, it's a verb, it's an adjective, or it's an adverb. Depends. Okay, we will do the practice of it. And after the grammar topic finishes, you will have the type of question which you will face in the paper. There are in the end of each unit, you will find the exercises. And moreover, when I give you the worksheet, there also you will have practice examination point of view. So no worries about it. I will provide you the material for that to understand it. So I hope you have understood this, that how you have to prepare parts of speech. All right. If you have understood how to prepare parts of speech, give me a thumb. And if you have any question regarding it, type it in the chat box so I can see that. Yes, on my screen, Bandara, Amali, Nilosha, Nirosha. These are on my screen, the rest are not. Okay. So please give me thumbs, Nilosha, Nirosha, Bandara, and Amali. Then I can understand it is clear. Right. So we will go to the next page. And that's the first area which we discussed, you will be tested in. Now we will go to the next. What are you going to be tested is the second area is this. We also see different grammatical forms. I told you we will be talking about forms. Forms in grammatical structure. For example, the arrangement of words into patterns. Arrangement of words into patterns, shapes, which have meaning. There are many grammatical terms to describe different grammatical structures. Here are some examples. Now you see, they will give you structure and you have to describe the form of it. Now, structure is what? Past continuous. How it is made up, past continuous. Or it's also called past, it's also called progressive or continuous. Okay. Forms: subject plus past tense of verb to be plus ing form of verb. Now, if you see in example, it's easy to say he was running. But when you grammatically describe the form of it, then you have to say subject plus past tense of to be. Was is the past tense of be verb. Present is am is are. So as we are talking about past continuous, so we have to use the past tense of the verb be. Then ing form of the verb, because in continuous tenses we are using ing form of the verb. All right. So example will be he was running. This is how they will test you about the tenses. It's all about the tenses. And sometimes pace your voice. So now what you have to do, you can download from the Google this easily, or you may find that in the glossary also. I told you glossary, always try to keep it. It's Bible to TKT. That much important it is. So you will find in the glossary also references, or you can Google it easily. Lots of English language websites are there. The BBC ones are there, or the Cambridge one are there. You can download easily material freely available on the grammar. So these ones you can check form of it, or you can make your own. Like for example, present simple tense. What's the form will be? Subject plus first form of the verb. Right? Now for negative, it comes how? Subject plus do not plus first form of the verb. Then that is how you can make your own even. And if you have doubt, you can download easily from that. This is the second area you will be tested in. They don't test you in these prepositional phrases, contrast clauses and all that. They will mostly test the 80% is sure it comes in the tenses. Sometimes pace your voice as well, form of it. So if you have a difficulty in finding it, let me know that how I will try to take a class on it later on. But easily you can find these references from the internet. Right. This is what is the explanation further about it. Nothing much in it. Now the third area we are going to talk about. This area is clear, the second area where you will be tested. Is this clear to you, or anyone has any kind of confusion regarding it? Nilosha? Nirosha, Nilosha, Bandara, Amali. Right. Nilosha is clear. Nirosha, are you clear? Amali is clear. Bandara. Dimasha is clear. Farzuna, Sumudha, Dani. All right. So these are the two areas. Nirosha, you have a question. Raise your hand for a question, but I think you can't speak. I mean, you can speak, but I can't hear. I'm dumb and deaf at all. So you can type it. Let me, in the chat box, something is there. Right. If there is any question, please type that in the chat box, okay? All right. So we will go to the next page. And this is the third area where you will be tested. Third area is what? It is the structure and uses. So most of the time, the structure and uses is regarding the tenses, like present simple tense or continuous tense or perfect tense. That's how they will be testing you. How? Like if you see present simple tense. So how many ways we can use it? It's C, A, to describe a present state, like I live in London. Present state. B, to describe actions or situations which happen repeatedly but which might not be happening at the moment. Like what? I read newspapers and magazines. You are telling your habits. You know? So when to talk about some regular actions happening in your life, every day or every week or every month or every year, we talk about that in present simple. to describe that. Something which is happening with the different intervals, not necessarily it is happening at the time of speaking. We talk about that in present simple. I'm sorry. C, to refer to the future in scheduled time. Future. Present simple we use for the future as well. Now, this some may know it, some may not. That's what you need to know about the use of tenses. Like how the plane leaves at 10:30. Like there is a train going to Kandy every 6:30 p.m. So what I say? Well, my train leaves at 6:30. Or you can get the train for Kandy. It leaves at 6:30. It's future. I might be talking about 12 o'clock in the noon. Talking about the future. But that is something which is already scheduled. Right? Not for the temporary thing. Suddenly something happened for one time that we discuss like for the future in the present continuous. Like for example, I say I'm going to Kandy tomorrow. I'm saying it today. About tomorrow. And I'm using present continuous. So that's how you people need to know how these tenses are used in different ways. That's the third area they will be testing you in. Likewise, if you see to tell a story, we use present simple tense. Like here they say, they get to the bus stop early and start talking to other people. Now, present simple. Like if I tell you something about what happened yesterday, so I say, you know what, I went to the market yesterday. Now, that is done. What I see, now I'm saying present simple. What I see, a person comes up to me. A person comes up to me, present simple, and asks me my name. And when I tell my name to him, he reacts strangely. How? All is present simple. I'm talking about yesterday. That's how they will be asking you, they will be giving you, for example, a situation, a sentence, and they will tell you this situation in this sentence which is going on, it is what tense describing which, so you have to find out. So when you know that these tenses are used for this particular situation or this way we can use, you can easily recognize that. Now here in TKT grammar area, they want to know whether you can recognize different grammatical functions. And they will be testing you in these three areas only. Not in the whole lot grammar which we do, not in that. Only these three areas they will be testing. Okay? Parts of speech, subcategories, forms, structure and forms, mostly tenses and passive voice, uses, passive voice, what is it? Conditional sentences uses, conditional sentences. You can note it down with you. Tenses, okay? Combination of tenses. And maybe passive voice. This is the only area where they will test you. Right. Likewise, next we can use to provide a commentary. Now, cricket you listen to when they say Malinga comes in balls and it goes for 4. Malinga comes in balls. Oh, nice hit, it goes for 4. Present simple. That's how you need to know about present continuous, present perfect continuous, past simple, the difference between present perfect and past simple, and likewise past perfect, past continuous. Future tenses, they don't that much because it's easy. The confusing area is past perfect, past simple, present perfect, past simple. This is the confusing area. Mostly they ask the question in that. Mostly, don't go by what I'm saying. You prepare the whole. It's not only good for your examination point of view, but also as a teacher for your own knowledge, you need to know the uses of these tenses. All right. So, is that clear?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Nilusha. Amali. Niroja, where is your thumb? Mandara, thanks. All right, thank you. So these are the three areas you will be tested in the grammar, and I told you the way you will be tested. Further in that, we will have some exercises. I will send you the worksheet so you will understand how they will test you in the grammar. Now here, as always, I tell you the key concept in language teaching in classroom. It's the grammar way, how we need grammar to teach in the classroom, which way we can, what are the methods, the age level and all that. First point which they are discussing, it is a general point of view about the grammar rules and the language rules. Like if you see, so it's for your general knowledge. I will just go through that. Grammar rules describe the way that language works. But language changes over time, so grammar rules are not fixed. They change too. But grammar rules and grammar books don't always change as quickly as the language. So they are not always up to date. Now, what happened here? Grammar rules describe the way language works. How the language function is, we understand by the grammar. It tells us how this language is working. But language changes over the time. There is a lot of changes happening in the language. After each 5-10 years, something new is there in the language. So the language which was taught in 80s is different than a lot of differences there now. Why? Because always world is changing. When world changes, the new things comes in, technologies comes in, and the new things, concepts are created. Now, if you see, we use Google. I was telling you Google. Google is what? It's a combination of different letters. They have put it a name for something. But I am using it as a verb. I am asking you Google it. Google it means check it. So I'm using it as a verb. It's not in the dictionary as a verb now, but after a while, after a year or 2 or 5 years, they will definitely add that in the dictionary. Why? Because English is a language which is surviving from long time. And why it is surviving, why there are a lot of languages disappeared from the world. Like Sanskrit is the mother of languages. Is somebody speaking Sanskrit now? No, nobody is speaking Sanskrit now. Even you see Pali. Pali language at the time of the Lord Buddha, it was a alive language of communication, and all this literature and everything is written in it. But who is speaking Pali now? Nobody. Only it is to the religious sutra and all that. Commonly in practice, no one is speaking. That is how it happens with the languages. Why this happened to the languages? Because the languages, when a language cannot accumulate the changes happening in the society with the passing of the time, that language is getting out of use. And that is how the languages are replaced with the new languages. Because when the language is not adjusting with the changes in the world, in the society, that language disappears. And now you can see there are a lot of languages part of the history. Sanskrit is there. We don't have to go around the world, just you check in our surrounding. Pali is there, Sanskrit is there, a lot of other, even Hindi. If you say Hindi, nobody speaks Hindi practically. Practically, they are speaking Urdu. Urdu is a language commonly which we call Hindi movies and all these. This is Urdu. Practically Hindi, if there's somebody starts speaking, nobody will understand. So that is also disappearing. Now Urdu, why it is surviving? Because it's easy to speak, plus it's easy to adjust the new words in this language. You will find Sinhala word in it, you will find Tamil word in it, you will find other languages spoken, Persian words are there, Arabic words are there. So that language has accommodated a lot of terms and all these from different languages. That's how it is surviving, going on. Same is the English case. English language is surviving for a long time, and it's an international language because it accommodates in it the changes happening with the passing of the time. Now this Google and likewise so many other, after some time you will see it will be part of the English language. That is how this language is surviving. That is how this language is international. It's not because British rule the world, no. They have kept the language such in a way to accommodate the changes around the world, the people, the way they speak English. So that's why you can see Indian, they speak their own way, but they are speaking English. Australian, they speak their way, but they are speaking English. New Zealand is different than Australia. Their own way of speaking English, their own way of pronouncing the word, that is also English. Likewise, South African, likewise, American, likewise, British, and likewise, a lot of other countries around the world, they speak English in their own way. And this language has accepted all those ways. That is why it is surviving. So going ahead, as they say here, grammar rules describe the way that language works, but languages change over time. Changes are happening in the language. Language, they don't remain static. If the language remains static, not changing, it disappears. It becomes part of the history. So they say grammar rules are also not fixed. They change accordingly. As language changes, the grammar also changes. But grammar rules and grammar books don't always change as quickly as language. So they are not always up to date. For example, some grammar books say that we should use whom rather than who after preposition. But in fact, except in some situation, who is generally used with a different words order. For example, I have just met the girl who I talked to on Friday. It's much more common and accepted than I have just met the girl to whom I talked on Friday. Grammar rules are changing also, but not as frequent as the language. Reason behind is because they have to see whether the language, for example, some change happened. People started using some expression in the language. That expression is going for the length of time of some years, or after a little bit time, a year or two, that is forgotten, and the people have jumped to another way. So that thing needs to be checked. If something new is used in a language and it goes for the length of time, and now it has become permanently people are using it, like you see the word okay. Initially, it was a casual word, a slang one, not the standard one. The standard one was all right. But now it's part of the English language. Commonly, people are using this word and it's accepted. That's why you will find that in the dictionary as well. That's the reason. So grammar rules are not changing because the grammar rules have to see whether the change in the language which has happened, is it permanent or it is just for the time being and after that people are not using it anymore. But when the language experts become sure that yes, this is something new they are using in the language for a long time, now it has become part of the language, then it become part of the grammar. That's why the grammar rules are changed a little bit later than the language one. So that's what they are talking like before. That was who and whom were used in different ways. But now who is used for all. Likewise, if you see shall and will, when we were learning language in 80s, who will and shall, that was too different. We were using with a certain pronouns, we were using will, and with a certain pronouns, we were using shall. And it was properly written on the, the board, explained by the teachers, and we were tested in it whether we are using will and shall properly. But if you see now, will is used with the all. So that's the change happened. Shall is only used for the question. Shall I go there? Shall I ask you something? So that's only used for the legal uses, like the document shall be written in this. So that is the legal term. Other than that, common English, we don't use shall. We use will for all. So that's how the change happened with the course of time in the language. And that's what they are talking to you here. Right. So, but they say the teachers need to know about these changes, what happens, and they need to keep themselves updated. Plus the grammar book which you are using, you have to see whether that is updated grammar, not outdated. Like I still see that some of the schools, they are using the Chapman grammar book. It is that small grammar book, like 5 to 6 inches. Is the total length of it, and width might be 4, so smaller compared to the normal size of the books. So they have some 4 books of the Chapman. It is outdated grammar, but still a lot of schools they are using. Why? Because the people who are in charge of the English language in those schools, they are those who have done that in 60s. Now they are headmasters or principals and something, so they recommend that book. That is outdated. And that's what they are telling you over here. Whenever you are using and referring to a grammar book, it has to be updated one. So check that what's the edition. Is it the latest edition or it's the older? So don't use my grandma's or granddad's book. Oh, my grandfather was using it. They have learned English from that. So there is a very classic English in it. That's gone with the wind. There are a lot of changes happening in the language, and the new terms comes, the new words come, the new expressions comes, the grammar rules are changing. We need to see what's the new language and what's the new rule. And as a teacher, we need to know about it. All right. So now we will go to the next point. I hope you people are not sleeping. Right? Nirosha, awakened? Okay. Yeah, because my story went a little bit more, then I'm not sure that whether you were sleeping over there, because you are not in the class, you were alone at home. I mean, alone at home mean one person attached from different places. So tend to, when the story goes longer, then tend to sleep. But I hope you are awakened. Okay, fine. So let's go ahead and see. The next point is grammar rules traditionally describe written language rather than spoken language. That's the point where the people say you don't need grammar for the spoken. Why? Because in the spoken way, we do not use proper language. I mean, grammatically perfect language we don't use. Reason behind? Because when we are speaking to each other, there are a lot of other things also need to be taken in consideration. For example, you ask me sometime, do you like to have tea? You are making tea or you are having tea. Then I just shrug my shoulders, mean no, no problem. Okay. Or if somebody say that, have you seen this thing? And I shrug my shoulder, this also see, no, I have no idea, right? So that is how we give, sometimes we don't speak and we show the expression, our facial expression, our gesture, our body language tells the answer to the other person. So that's why grammatical rules are not that much applied when we speak. So there are a lot of other things. Sometimes we don't have to speak, even the answer is clear, right? Sometimes one word answer is there and it is clear. Sometimes two words. Grammatically, we don't write that in that way. Like I can't just write this gesture in the answer. No, while I'm writing, then I have to follow up the rules properly of the grammar way. That's why they say here, grammar rules traditionally describe written language rather than spoken language. For example, repetition, exclamation, and contractions means two words that are pronounced or written as one. For example, don't, isn't, won't. These are contracted forms, which we call contractions, are common features of important parts. Important parts of spoken language. Why? Because don't and isn't, won't, it is like spoken use, but nowadays in written also comes, but in the formal way, they don't use contracted forms. Whenever it is formal way writing, that is used as a full. Instead of contracted, you have to write the full form of it. So that's what they are talking over here. All right, Shivani, keep it here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll burn my hand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right. So, but they are not always described in grammar books. Mean contracted forms, some of the grammar book, the old one, you won't find that over there. Some grammar books are now available, which describe spoken language too. That's what they are talking about. The latest edition of the grammar book, you will find those things over there, but the older one you won't. So if somebody is referring to the older version edition of it, then definitely they will say it is not allowed. But in the modern one, the latest one, in some way it is allowed. But if it is you are writing a document which is the legal one, there you have to write proper do not contracted form. And sometime in the testing also, proficiency test and all that, there they want to check it and whether you are writing formally proper English. Okay, right. So next one is, very often speakers of language can speak and write it without consciously knowing any grammatical rules of terms. That's for sure. Like for example, you are the speaking Sinhala language is your mother language. So without going to the school, a child can speak grammatically perfect Sinhala language. That's the case of those native speaker of any language. So unconsciously, they speak grammatically perfect language without reading that formal way. Next one is, this is an important point which you people need to note it down for the teachers. When you people are teaching, they say here, teachers need to consider whether it's helpful to teach grammar to learners simply by making them aware of patterns and practicing them, or by also teaching them grammar rules and some grammatical terms. Learning some grammatical rules and terms makes language learning easier for some learners. Other learners, for example, young children, may not find it useful at all. The point here is, when you are teaching grammar rules, For the young learners, you need to keep it simple way. Less grammar rules, more practical language. As they go to the lower secondary, grade 6, 7, 8, or upper secondary, grade 9, 10, 11, there you can teach the grammar, start teaching the grammar to them. But when they are in the primary, very less grammar need to be taught because small children cannot understand the rules and regulations. It's just they will be memorizing. What they need is to get familiar with the use of language. So that's what they point out here, that the adults, they might be interested in learning the grammatical rules because adults and young adults, they want to speak or write according to the rules perfectly. So they might be interested in it. But the youngster, the small one, they are not interested at all because they do not understand that. So for them, you have to use practical English to make them familiar with that, not the grammatical rules like in the school. God bless them, they are teaching so much grammar to grade 1 preschool and grade 2 grammar. What they know about adverbs and adjectives and all that? These small children, we're supposed to teach them how to use language for different things around them. If they can communicate about the things around them in English, that's enough for them. Later on, they can learn the grammar, but I don't know what these managements and all that they are thinking of these children, that learning the grammar rules at this age, how it will benefit them. It just go over their head. Right. So you people try to not teach that much grammar to the children, try to teach them practical use of the language. Grammar they can learn in the upper classes. Just learning grammatical rules, next point. Just learning grammatical rules, terms, and structures does not teach learners how to communicate, which is the main purpose of language. So much language teaching nowadays also focus on function, language skills, fluency, and communication. Now, only grammar rules, if you are teaching, they cannot learn communication out of it. And the function of the language actually is what to communicate with the people. So to understand that, they need to use the language for the different practical things. They need to do the fluency practices and the communication activities they have to do, not only grammar. And there are a lot of books nowadays which is based on that. They teach practical thing with the grammar rules, not in isolation they are teaching the grammar rules. And isolation will not work. If you are teaching isolated rules, no, you need to give the example of the practical function of it as well. Right. Last point, it's important that exercises and activities focus on form and use and give student practice of both. For example, the second conditioner is, okay, that's the same thing, the use of the rules. Right, that's it. Now, just to give you the main point, in the grammar, you will be tested in 3 areas. One is subcategories of parts of speech. Second is structure and forms. Third is uses of the tenses plus passive and conditional sentences. All right, you can easily download on this material. Now, follow-up activity you can see here, which I'm telling you, you can check that how it is needed. Put these words into correct categories below. Some may belong to more than one category. Now see, they have given different words to you, and then you see they are nouns, verbs, adjective, or what. Do this exercise and check your answers on 237 page. Likewise, you can check that, what is it, the next one? TKT practice task. Every unit end you will find a TKT practice task. In that, the way the question they are asking is exactly the way the paper in the paper will be asked. Okay, so here you see you do these exercises also, and then check your answers on page number 245. You will find the answer of these ones. Along with that, I'm going to send you the worksheet, and the worksheet I will have to first make you understand what you're supposed to do in that. Okay, anything you want to ask? I know you cannot speak, but you can type that in the chat. Any question? So the topic is over for the time.